Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Epic family. We're here for another night of our Epic YouTube broadcast. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We are always excited to have you with us and to just share a little bit of your time with us because, hey, we love communicating with you. We love being able to engage with you on Christ-centered things, on things that really get us excited about why we do the jobs that we do. My name is Tony Wee, and I served with Epic for the past 18 years, and I'm still here as the MC for this YouTube broadcast as we are engaging in some fun things tonight with evangelism. Here with me are two of my friends. We have Tommy Joe, who is also the former National Executive Director of Epic Movement, as well as the former Executive Director of AACF. Were you the former director of anything else? I mean, you did.
That's good enough.
Are you sure? You weren't like the former director of the ski patrol you were on? Or
No.
Okay,
not
anyway.
the
Yeah. One of the most eclectic men that I know, but I just really enjoy his presence and just, man, just a walking encyclopedia of knowledge and goodness all around.
Jonathan now.
Yeah, exactly. No, and then there's Jonathan. Just kidding. But Jonathan is here. He is one of our newer members to the Epic National team, the National Director of Global Mobilization. He spent several years in Southeast Asia, as well as served faithfully in Austin, Texas, where you live right now. So welcome both of you guys to the broadcast.
Thank you.
Excited.
Yeah. Well, we're following up actually from last month's broadcast, which was, if you missed it, please go check it out on our YouTube channel. We got to have a great conversation with some of our friends. One of the key friends that we invited in was Dr. James Trong, who is our friend from InterVarsity. See, crew in InterVarsity can't have friendships, by the way, because we actually do all care about bringing the Great Commission to pass in a real way. And so his insights and his thoughts really match a lot of what we're talking about, that we really do believe as we talk about multiplying holistic disciples, that we are engaged in a spectrum of discipleship from when someone doesn't know Jesus at all the way through eternity, that everything is related to discipleship in that regard. And we see it as a whole spectrum. So yeah, we are really excited to see that actually we are being called tools in a sense, which of course, no one wants to be declared a tool, but God uses us as tools for his kingdom and his glory, and as we share our faith. So we're going to talk to you a little bit today about evangelistic tools that we as tools can use as we interact with others. So let me just make sure I preface it that when we say that we're the tools, is that we really are the instruments that God uses to intersect with people's hearts. And in order to do that, I think it helps us to figure out where are people at, because I think that's one of the main difficulties of sharing your faith is not really knowing how to engage in a conversation about it, how to start a conversation, or even know how to intersect where they might be. Well, the tools that we'll share help us investigate some of that. But I think first and foremost, we probably need some sort of framework for this section of our discipleship we call evangelism. So let me start with you, Jonathan. As you're thinking about evangelism and as you think about this whole spectrum, can you share with us a little bit of a framework that, we in Crew have used or that you use to really understand where people are at? And by the way, you can unmute. Go for it.
Yeah. First, I love that you call it a spectrum. I think sometimes that was a concept that was really new to me when I got to college, and really engaged in these kinds of conversations with other people on staff with Epic and other students. I like that word because in Crew we use a tool called the angle scale. That's kind of, I don't know if we have a graphic of it that we're going to show, but what I like about the angle scale is that it helps me understand that the decision to follow Jesus is progressive. Even when we're on the other side of the cross, we as Christians can have winsome experiences that draw us closer to God, and even hurtful ones that kind of move us away. If we have that graphic there, it'll become clear a little bit of what I'm talking about. But it's essentially it's a scale from, let's say, negative. Here it is, -8, where it describes someone as let's say pretty far from really the desire to hear or even be curious about Jesus, all the way to -1, to someone who's counted the cost of faith and said, yeah, I do want to follow Jesus and know more, all the way up to +5, where they begin sharing their faith with others as well. I once read a book called I Once Was Lost, What Postmodern Skeptics Have Taught Us About Their Path to Jesus. In this book, the authors interviewed a couple dozen people whose stories pointed them to common barriers they had to overcome before following Jesus. And for some of us, this numbers scale is really useful. For me, a conceptual scale is a little bit easier to understand. So in this book, they proposed these barriers that people had to cross before they said yes to Jesus. For example, does this person even trust another Christian? If they don't even trust another Christian, I would not be doing them any favors to tell them about my Christ. And then the second barrier they would need to overcome is, are they even curious about their own spirituality? If they don't even care about spiritual things, I would have to pull teeth just to get them to think about spiritual topics. Next, are they open to change? Because as we ask people, as we present the gospel to people, we are essentially presenting the opportunity to change, to repent, to change, to claim someone else as Lord. And then, are they seeking a new path? Are they actively seeking a new path? And are they? And then finally, are they willing to follow Christ? So those are a couple. That's how I kind of use this scale to understand where someone is in their spiritual journey before I decide what to next.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I think that we need to have some framework of understanding some of that spectrum. Tommy, did you have anything that you'd like to add into that?
Yeah. So since we're talking about tools, and we kind of have to understand where a person is at in order for us to apply the right tool in our kit, if it were. So if a person isn't ready, if I could say, to hear the gospel, what it means at its core, don't go there. It's kind of a waste. And it actually can be, if I could be real frank, maybe perceived as offensive, especially if there's no trust and there's no bonding between, or if there's hostility, or if they just don't want to deal with it. And so don't force a tool at the wrong place. It doesn't make sense. But within Cru, through our research and through our experience in the field and through what we've been doing with Epic, we've developed some tools that actually fit, depends on where they are in the angle scale. So the angle scale, the representation that you saw is one model of that scale. It just understand that people are on a journey. And really the goal when we talk about evangelism is not to bring somebody to Jesus, and nor is it. It's really to make a person a disciple. It's not convert, like we talked about last week. Conversion is not the goal. And it's really a relationship with Jesus. So as long as we're bringing them a step closer, really that's the main point. Mm-hmm. And so there's where they're at, and then there's what our role, and part of our role when they're very far away is proclamation. Like we proclaim through our life, through what we do, to hanging out with people, to establishing a relationship. And then when there's a place where they're actually in an engagement to want to talk about things, then our role is persuasion. And then after they've acknowledged a relationship with Christ, then our job is follow-up, cultivation, and empowerment. And then there's a whole other section where the Lord is actually working in people's hearts. God has put a God-sized hole in people's heart. Who said that? I forgot who. And that only God can. And then that's kind of general revelation, and he talks about in Romans 1. And then there's the Holy Spirit convicting that person. And then after somebody comes to faith, there's a whole process of sanctification. So it's a process. It's a process that we engage in. And so we have to fit the right tool in that process.
Right. And I mean, I think that we all value that point when someone actually comes to make a decision for Jesus, but that's just the beginning, right? That's just the beginning of a person's journey more than anything else. And, Tommy, when you talk about there's different roles that God plays in this, I think that is really special, because I think that, in Cru, we use this sentence, we say that successful evangelism is taking the initiative to share Jesus Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit, and leaving the results to God. And the idea is that it's like we sometimes think about it in terms of, I have the need to convert somebody, and if I can just bring them to church, or if God brings them to church with me, or God brings them to our weekly meeting, then I can convert them. But I feel like it's the other way around, right? It's that sometimes God puts people in your life, and then then when you actually take the initiative to share with them, God changes their heart. That's the Holy Spirit changing.
It's called the mission of God. God has already put in place that whole mission, and we just come alongside for the ride. I mean, let's just join it. And so part of that is, then how do we do that? Like, how do we engage in a conversation? What do we use to actually foster spiritual conversation, and then maybe come to a place where we can actually come to a place that they can affirm their life in Christ? So I think there's some tools we could probably share about that.
Yeah, I think that's where we are. And again, just the idea that our goal is just to give them one step closer to Jesus with all of this. We just want to make sure that we're demystifying the idea of evangelism and lowering the bar for even what does it look like to engage. So we're hoping that you, at least from this time, can understand that, you don't have to be an expert on how to do this. Sometimes you just have to take the initiative, and God will use you in that manner. So, but in the midst of that, we still want to try to equip you to the best of our ability. So we're going to highlight just a couple of our tools tonight to be able to share with you about what we have. So I want to start with you, Jonathan, again, just to be able to see one of the tools that we've actually helped develop as part of Epic and Crew. We call this the I Am From tool. And so, Jonathan, tell us a little bit about this tool, and where might you see this on the spectrum of bringing people to Jesus?
Yeah. So the I Am From tool, it's a deck of cards that starts conversations around people's cultural experiences. There are 5 topics that it explores: ancestry, growing up, family expectations, cultural values, and even cultural experiences. And so, you would flip through them, like you would offer them a deck of cards to start a conversation on that topic, and they get to choose from that deck cards that best resonate with their own story. Why I like it is that people dive right into their stories with this one. And as I share my own responses, we relate, we can bond, we can understand each other's experiences, and really come to understand one another. Why I think this tool is helpful to connect with others is that I think people want to find solidarity with others by relating to similar themes. And I think it's becoming an increasing desire and need for our stories to be heard and understood by people outside of our cultural circles, and for us to even understand stories of people outside of our own cultural circles. And I think this tool can make that happen. Yeah,
I mean, it seems like this tool has been made for such a time like this, right? Can you talk to us about like how you see this tool, especially when we talk about culture and people's stories? How do you feel like this connects with the generation that we're operating in right now?
Yeah, well, I think this generation is pretty aware that there is more than one culture around them. And I think they're becoming increasingly aware that they're in a mix of many different cultures, and each one has unique perspectives of the world around them and unique experiences to share. And I think sometimes it's hard to know how to talk about those things. I think at the surface we know how to, like, what kind of foods do you like to eat? Or what do you do on certain holidays? But there are certain questions that are a little nitty gritty that might be a little harder to talk about. And I think this tool it gives you the excuse to talk about things that might be a little harder to with a complete stranger. Mm-hmm. Actually, the first time I used this tool, I was overseas, and I found this student who was tall, wide-shouldered. He was wearing a hoodie with headphones and watching something on his phone. Thankfully, he wanted to know what cultural conversation cards were, so we were able to go through them together. And all I knew about this tool at the time is exactly what I just told you, what it was. And yeah. And as we flipped through it, we discovered how similar our stories were, despite coming from different countries and growing up from different countries. Wow. He definitely shared a whole lot more than I thought a stranger would be sharing with another stranger. And after our conversation, he even said that I was the first person he'd ever talked about some of these things with, which actually that didn't surprise me. Some of the topics in here, I would say I don't talk about on a regular basis with people either, but they're really good to talk about. Through this conversation, though, he did let me share about my own Christian faith and how that intersected with my cultural experience. And after our conversation, he made this comment that really stuck with me. He said, "You're the first Asian Christian I've met. Are there others like you?" And so, and this country we were in was Asia, or it's a country in Asia. And so I was kind of surprised, but it's really neat that we came to that. He was curious about how it was possible for me to be both Vietnamese and a Christian, which was, how that was cool. How the conversation cards got us to that point.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing too. It's like you can just take the initiative with some of these tools, and I think that we get so scared about what the conversations will become or what they might not be. But then when we don't take that risk, you would have never have gotten a chance to have that amazing conversation, with just even being able to talk about that. And you know what, even though we laugh, we kind of chuckle, Jonathan, I think it's really amazing that, hey, if you know nothing about this tool, or if you just know nothing about how to share your faith even, who knows what God can do through you still in the midst of that, and that's the power of the Holy Spirit working in you, which is really wonderful. So I think that's a great story to add on to. So if you guys have it, hopefully you'll know that we are posting these tools as we talk about them in the chat, as well as we're going to be having them available on our YouTube channel feed, as well as our website. There will be a link for our website that will have a bunch of these tools. Yes, this one does have a cost to it. So it's not meant to be an advertisement to buy our stuff so that we can sell a lot of stuff just to buy our merch. But no, buy our merch so that we can share the gospel and so that you can share the gospel too. So other tools have come up too. So we have other tools that we use.
There's another one you guys, like people my age, or older, would remember this old game called the Ungame. It was a game of just asking questions and was just a way to share stories, and there's a couple other ones, contemporary ones, but we developed one just upon using pictures. At first, we actually just used magazines and tore them out and asked questions based upon pictures in the magazine, or, just torn up pieces of paper. And then we actually developed a tool called Solarium, like Solarium. And it's a deck of cards. And again, you can go and not know anything about this tool. You pick it up and you're going, oh, I'm shaking. I don't know how to do this. But all we want you to do is take initiation and use the card. There's a whole bunch of questions and answers and how to use it. Go up to a couple of people and ask them, hey, we're taking a survey on spiritual attitudes. Can I have a few minutes of your time? And then if they say no, respect that. If they say yes, and you show them the pictures and you just lay all those pictures out on the table and say, hey, can you pick, 3 photos that kind of represent the current climate on this campus, and then tell us why? And then they'll pick out 3 and they're sharing. And we've approached couples and small groups doing this, and then they'll share, and then we'll talk about, if you were to pick 3 quick questions about the spiritual climate on this campus, or this whatever, and they'll do it and they'll start sharing. And then they're doing a lot of talking. They're actually doing 90% of the talking at this point. And then you'll drill down into questions like, how do you see God, or how does God see you? And you pick it up and you're sharing, and they're talking about their experience with God or the church. And it's really interesting. When I was doing this on campus, last time I was on campus, it's a little awkward to approach a couple that are having lunch, and you do this thing, and you sprout the cards, and as they're getting into it, they're sharing really deep things, just like Jonathan said. They're sharing really deep stuff, and the girl looks at the guy straight in the eye and goes, "Wow, you've never shared you never shared that with me before. And it's just like this, they're sharing it with me, but they haven't shared it with each other. And it's just a way to engage them in conversation. And then it leads to a question about, okay, so, has anybody really explained what it means to have a relationship with Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
And no, says, do you mind if I do? And sure, since they've been doing 90% of the talking, it's now kind of, you earned your right to talk. And so then you engage in spiritual conversation, and a conversation leading to hopefully a presentation about what it means to be a follower of Jesus. Right. And, again, in Romans, just the first part of Romans is, I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is a power that brings salvation to everyone that believes. And, it's terrifying at first, but once we get over ourselves, man, people do want to talk about this. There's a lot of things they want to share, but we just have to give them the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. No, I love that, Tommy. I mean, it's amazing how I think people really want to share their stories, right? They want to share who they are with someone who's just willing to listen. And I think that's one of the main things that when we talk about being a tool, I think when we think about evangelism or the things that we're saying, we look at the street preacher, right? Or we look at the person who is at the pulpit telling you this is what you're supposed to become. But I think what we're really engaging in is actually saying, can we have a real conversation? Which I think this generation is longing for, to simply want to know, hey, are you willing to listen to what I have to say? And I think that's part of demonstrating who Christ is, right? That's how you break some of those thresholds of how do you get someone who is suspicious about Jesus, or suspicious of Christians even, to being able to say, hey, this Christian guy who is first one I've ever met, he's actually listening to me, right? And then it keeps going of like, hey, it's so quick. It's so amazing how fast that rapport builds when you can just go on from one to the other. And sometimes you see it jump from like -8 to -2, I've seen that multiple times, right? And so I think that's just amazing that when we just take that initiative, and we can just be equipped with these kind of games even to do with people, to be in conversations. It's an amazing aspect of what we do, right? So anyway, I think that's great. I think that that tool, even the Solarium tool, I think fits even in some of those mid-tier categories when you've got someone who is curious or past a couple of those thresholds, who are saying, well, I've been around Christians, but I am kind of curious more about that. I mean, I've used Solarium from the entire spectrum, even post-Christian people who are like, yeah, what is it like in community? And use these pictures to describe it. What do you guys do? Tommy, like, what would you use when someone looks like, I think I'm ready? When you've asked that question of, hey, would you like to hear about what a relationship with Jesus is? What kind of tool would you use for that?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just nice to have a little pocket script with you, right? And if Campus Crusade for Christ, or Crew, what we're called now, or Epic Movement, you probably have something in the back of your head that's associated with these pamphlets. And the pamphlet was called Four Spiritual Laws, which is still used today. I don't know how many millions have been produced, but tens of millions. And they've rebranded it into different types of things. Instead of saying laws, one is just, would you like to know God personally? So it's a little booklet, the same kind of thing. And it has, you go through the little questions and stuff like that. And sometimes you just read it. Like, I forgot all this stuff. You just read it, and you have them read a section, and then you dialogue about it, and you kind of just go for the pamphlet, which is a great, great tool. And I encourage you, we were right before this broadcast, we were trying to figure out, do I even have a paper one anymore? And so actually I have one in my flight bag. When I fly, I always keep them in there so I can give it to people. And I actually do. But there's another tool that everybody has. It's on your phone. Everybody has a phone. So if you pull out a phone and you look up this in your App Store, or in the Google Play Store, or in the Apple, what's it called? I'm not an Apple guy. Sorry. I hope I'm not dissing anything. Oh, Apple Store.
Apple Store,
Google Play Store. It's called God Tools. And if you look at those titles up on the top, you have the Four Spiritual Laws, you have Honor Restored, you have Knowing God Personally, you have Satisfied, and basically those are booklet form, but now they're all digitized. And they're incredible because you can actually use them. You can take them with you. You always have it. You can actually share that with somebody. if you don't finish a conversation, hey, can I give this to you? And you just send it to them via email, texting, even you can do it on their social media. But there's another really cool tool on it. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, you'll see this kind of looks like a kanji and an A in it next to the plus thing. If you click that, it'll actually drop down and show you the different languages that are in that. And do you recall how many languages are in there?
It's a lot. I think it's around
100 different languages. So if you're going to a country or in LA, okay, I live in LA. What languages do I preload on there? I preload Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, or simplified and traditional Chinese. If I'm going to go to a place like, in another area of LA, I could do it in a Polish translation, or I can do it.
You live in Long Beach, and we always go to that Cambodian restaurant. Exactly. So we get it in Cambodian too, right? Yep.
And so what happens is you can toggle back and forth on it. So you actually can do it in their native language. Or what I do is I'll do it in English, and then I'll do it in their language and then have them say it back to me in English, so I know that they're tracking with me. They're actually getting the content. Yeah. And if they get stuck, I can just toggle back and forth in their language, and they can, oh, that's interesting. And once they see that, they're really eager to take it. And so we just say, hey, can I email this to you, or can I text it to you? And if you have any questions, please let me know. And so it opens up a dialogue as well. And it's a great tool. It's called God Tools. And and that whole arena with God Tools, we have Jesus Film Project, we have a bunch of tools that Crew has developed, and just have that in your pocket, because you never know when you'll be able to get to use it with somebody. And even if you're listening to this and you don't really understand this Christianity stuff, or you maybe are kind of feeling unsure, go through the information. It's kind of good just to brush up on, hey, what does this actually mean when we're talking about a relationship with Christ? And so highly recommend. It's called God Tools. I sound like an advertisement.
Well, we are trying to get people involved with our tools. There was another one in there called Honor Restored as well, which is something that it's based on an honor shame understanding of the gospel that we adapted from the Knowing God Personally booklet. Some of our Epic staff also participated in developing that as well. Check it out. It's something that's worth a look. Tommy, tell us a story about how you've used this, because I think that everybody's seen this tool one way or the other. Show us some real life application of how this has functioned for you.
How many times do I get to share this? I mean, how many different stories? Just a couple of weeks ago, the painters were in our house, and I noticed they were listening to Christian music, and I shared that they could have the KGP or the God Tools thing in Spanish. And I showed them, and I was able to send it to them, but I didn't actually have a conversation with them. But one time, I was at a train station in Asia, and I bought the ticket for 5 hours later, and I was kind of freaking out if I'm on the right train or right track. And, this guy to sit next to me and looked like a college student. And I was I needed to ask somebody how to get to my next destination, make sure I'm on the right track, right time. I could read the ticket properly. So I asked him, do you speak English? And he goes, no, but he really does. But I asked him anyway, is this the right location at the right time? He goes, oh yeah, that's fine. And then he was asking me some questions, and I asked him, so has anybody ever, the conversation was much longer. So I had kind of the permission to ask the question. Again, I had 5 hours to sit there in the train station, but he something came up about Americana and this, that, and the other, and came up about spirituality. Then I asked him a question. Has anybody actually ever explained what Jesus did? And he goes, no. He says, do you mind if I show you? Sure. Pull up the app, and we went through it, the whole thing. And he was just curious, wanted to know more about it. Did he, did he make a decision to follow Jesus there? I don't know. But I was actually able to give it to him via his app, and it was awesome. It was an awesome experience to be able to use it. So I really do use this tool. I really do use this tool. And that comes to the other part. And I know, Tony, you're going to talk about this too, but we love to train people on how to use this. So if you're a small group, you're a church, we're doing 30 minutes of information right now, but these tools take a little bit longer to unpack in the process. And we love teaching about this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, Tommy, that's one of those things too, where you do just sort of let the Lord lead them wherever. But the fact is that they have a piece of the gospel in their hands, which they may never have had. I'll say this: my wife actually is great on planes. Man, like she has led multiple people on planes because they're a captive audience, and my wife is actually very winsome and kind, and when she talks to people, they just want to talk some more. She's a great listener. But yeah, they end up praying the prayer with her at the end, and we have no idea what goes from that. But you know, it's just that initiative to actually say, hey, let me take a step of faith. And I remember the first time I ever used this booklet, I just become a Christian. I was 17 years old, and I literally had no idea what to do. I literally read it with my friend. And then she went ahead and prayed the prayer. And then she ended up getting involved in our Christian ministry, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just, you know, it's just trying to pursue faithfulness in that regard in some of this initiative. So with that in mind, you know, we have some, we're just about out of time tonight. Jonathan and Tommy, did you have anything last that you wanted to say just to encourage people?
Yeah, I'll share another thing. So Crew, speaking of other tools that Crew has, and I'm so sorry about the noise in the background right now. That's my son going off.
Real life, man.
I'll say this, you know, like for someone like me, it might be really hard to know where to start building a bookshelf. I thrive on IKEA's, you know, pictorial instructions on how to construct that simple bookshelf. Someone like Tommy, on the other hand, who I've known for years, could probably build one in his sleep. So for people like me who may not, you just fumble around, what tool do I use when? We have a tool for that as well. I really enjoy this app that Crew has redeveloped. Some of us know what this tool is, but I promise you they've redeveloped it from the ground up. So it's very different from what some of you are familiar with it are to right now. It's called Mission Hub. And what it does is it allows you to track with your neighbors, your family, your friends, based on previous conversations you've had with them, on where they are in their spiritual journey. So you can use the app, and based on what you already know of them, you can say, I think this person is uninterested in any and all things spiritual. Or I think this person is actually curious. From the conversations we've had, it sounds like they're kind of open. And so with those two categories, this app will take all the tools that Crew has developed and suggest to you small faith steps you could take with people depending on where they are in their spiritual journey. There are four categories of faith steps you can take, and some of those fall under the relate category, which these are ideas to help you deepen your relationship and build trust with people. There's the pray category, which are ways to invite God into your relationship with them. There's the care category, which are ideas to help you demonstrate that you care about them. And then there's the share. And these are ways to bring up conversations about what they believe and about what you believe. And again, like I said, they're contextualized to where they are in their spiritual journey. So you could be talking to a relative who wants nothing to do with Christianity, but this app will suggest to you a winsome faith step that you can take of how to even begin a conversation about faith with someone even like that.
Outstanding. So if you can't tell, we're pretty excited about the tools that we use, that we've developed, that we want to give away free and train people. Actually, training is pretty minimal. You could just read it and use it, as you can tell. But we, you know, if you want to get more information on this, all of our tools are listed on our website, both on the website and also on this YouTube channel. And we just encourage you to do that. If you want to reach out to us as staff, you can go to our website as well and go to info@epicmovement.com and request training or more information. And we'd love to walk you through that. So on behalf of Epic Movement, Tony, Jonathan, and me, just really appreciate what you're doing. And we'll see you next month when we're continuing the dialogue on the whole issue of what it means to be a Christ-centered, holistic disciple of Jesus.
If you guys have a chance to, make sure you please subscribe and like on this channel. Please check us out on Instagram and Facebook as well. Share this link with your friends. Again, as Tommy mentioned, check out our website. A lot of our material will be there. So until next time, take care, everybody.
Yeah, y'all.
See ya.